brave new world out there, as we say, from mining to space to smart cities. The technology is extraordinary, there's no doubt about it, but even with the world's best technologies, you still need people. So how will our future workforce be ready for the challenges that lay ahead? So let's discuss that. In enabling the workforce of the future, I would now like to invite to the stage Mr. Philippe Forestier, the Executive Vice President, Global Affairs and Communities with Dassault Systèmes, and our invited speakers this afternoon, Professor Pascale, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Vice President of the University of Adelaide, and also Mr. Richard Hamer, Education and Skills Director, BAE Systems, to share their views. Please make them welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you with two great people, Pascale Castor from the University of Adelaide and Richard from BAE Systems. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Of course, I'm Richard Hamer. I'm the Education and Skills Director at BAE Systems in the UK, where we're responsible for over 2,000 apprentices and 500 graduates. I'm responsible for the design of our programs, also work too with government in terms of development of new apprenticeship standards, where I'm responsible for chairing the aerospace and airworthiness apprenticeship standards.
Pascale?
And I'm Pascale Cuesta, the Vice President Academic at the University of Adelaide, and basically this involves connecting our students with the programs that will make them successful, developing curriculum that answers the challenges of the future, and connecting with international partners.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm Philippe Forestier. I'm one of the persons from the Executive Committee, and one part of my responsibility is around education. And we will all agree that education is probably the most important weapon to change the world. It's not from me, it's from Nelson Mandela. Okay? So as a start, I would like to, just as an introduction, to explain what's our view in Dassault Systèmes about education. We promote what we call a lifelong approach, which starts with the young boys and girls, which start then with the schools and universities and the professional life. And I will give you some observations about what we perceive is done, and then I will ask a few questions to these people. With respect to young boys and girls, our observation is that in many situations, it's difficult in different countries, specifically in North America, for example, to motivate young boys and girls to embrace technological career. And so we are forced to execute some specific initiatives like STEM initiatives, and I think it's a real issue because I think that the world is lacking of engineers, the world is lacking of technological people. If my information are correct, we train maybe 2 million engineers per year and we need 3. So this is a key issue for the future. And you know that all of us, that we are involved in the transformation of industry, we need this workforce of the future, and it starts from the very early age. Probably our other observation is that it's an education which is very much by silo, by discipline, and I think that an education by project could be much more adapted. So my first question is for Richard, because I know that you have been very much involved in schools and universities with those kind of initiatives like STEM. Can you explain what you think about that?
Yes, I think fundamentally in terms of BAE Systems, our role in the UK has been working in partnership with education, but also with government and actually with the armed forces. So the key vehicle is our schools roadshow, reach out to 420 schools and over 100,000 children a year working with the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy. And that's all around inspiring around STEM. It's actually using robots, co-robots, drones and whatever, changing attitudes, also specifically think in terms of young women and girls and whatever, demystifying the approach towards the STEM sector. We also do a lot of work experience, provide 400 to 500 500 placements a year. Absolutely essential, I think, to help them understand what life is really like in an engineering environment, but again, particularly for girls, get them to come and actually meet other sort of role models who are actually women or whatever working in our sector. Another important thing we do is actually teacher placements. At the end of the summer term, we get teachers to come in and actually see what an engineering environment is actually like. So that again changes their sort of hearts and minds. So when they're talking about careers, they may not just suggest sixth form or university. Well, having said that, we do an apprenticeship. It could be a degree apprenticeship, so that would still be a degree program, but you'd be based and employed by BAE Systems or go to university at the same time. So we do a lot to inspire for us, but also support supply chain too.
Okay, so now we are talking about schools and boys and girls in schools. Observation with respect to universities and the people at work is that there was some kind of disconnect. Because, you know, in many institutions, colleges and schools, you know, the focus really is knowledge, increase the knowledge of the people. And sometimes it's not very obvious to connect with the needs of the industry. So the strategy of Dassault Systèmes evolved in that direction. And we promoted what we call the workforce of the future to make sure that we connect those two worlds, to make sure that in the perspective of the fourth industrial revolution that we call now the industry renaissance, which is a rebirth of the industry, we need to make sure that we provide to the workers the right level of education, and it can be with a connection. So at the end of last year, I asked to myself, let's talk to different deans and vice presidents of universities in the world and ask them what is their view about the workforce of the future. Look at this video. Can you pass the video, number one, please?
Look, for me, the workforce of the future is actually going to be defined not so much by what they know. I think knowledge is important, but it's not the whole story. They're going to be really defined by what they can do. And that starts with their skills, with their aptitude, but also with their capacity to continue to learn. As they face innovation, they will need to continue to develop their skills. And so we need to have a workforce that will have the capacity to learn above everything else. I think they also need to be interculturally competent. The future is a global place, and we cannot have a workforce that cannot operate in multiple global settings. And I think the intercultural competence will really be important in the future teams that will work on a number of problems. And that leads me to the third quality that I think the workforce should display. They should be creative problem solvers. They should be flexible, and the challenge that they will face is no longer a dearth of information, but rather a plethora of data. So the capacity for analytical skills, perhaps a background in the STEM discipline, really to try and hone up those skills that will enable them to live in a world that is both global and really full of data. Look, I think that for us to prepare the future generation, we have to let go of the way of the past. In the past, the universities were ready to deliver a fully formed graduate to the industry, and then the industry would either form or use the graduate for their own purpose. I think we have to adopt now a much more purposeful process of co-creation. And co-creation starts with the student, him or herself. It's very important that the student sees himself or herself not as a recipient of knowledge, but as an active participant in the education that they will actually benefit from. Now, we also need that co-creation to extend to the university and the industry working in partnership, so as to make sure that the education that the student acquires is one that is relevant and one that is going to deliver value to the industry stakeholder as well. So this doesn't end there. It's not a kind of sequential process. Our job is never done. We have to continue to work together with the student, with industry, with universities together, making sure that that workforce is not only ready when the students graduate, but continues to be ready for whatever the challenge will be. Well, the University of Adelaide is incredibly excited and confident that we will have the opportunity to really implement that co-creation vision with Dassault. The 3DEXPERIENCE platform will give great benefit to our students because the graduates will all have the capacity to familiarize themselves with the tools that are really used by the industry leaders, you know, the companies like ASC and Boeing and Naval Group, etc. And of course for Dassault, it means working with us on developing the workforce of the future, you know, a workforce that is ready for an agenda of change and innovation and technology, and we're very excited about that.
Well, when you hear that, I think our roundtable is finished. She did everything. So at the point that when we had with Sylvain and with all the executive team our strategy kickoff at the beginning of the year, I showed this video to all the 200 leaders from the company because it corresponds exactly to the strategy we want to have to transform the education system and make sure we prepare the workforce of the future. So my question to Pascale is, how did you engineer that? What was your thought to make this like this?
So actually, the University of Adelaide is a well-established university. It's 143 years old. But one of the things that we have been really trying to develop in recent times has been this process of co-creation. And that starts with a recognition that the student is fundamentally the most important piece of the puzzle, but also the recognition that just teaching people by reminiscing is not going to be useful to prepare them for the future. And so the equation that we had to solve was, if we take the student into the puzzle, and if the university has got people who can actually coach them into their learning process, we also need the missing part, which is the industry partner that would actually use that human capital. So workforce of the future is actually our shared challenge. It will do absolutely no good for us to develop students who will not actually fit and succeed and contribute. In the same way, for industry, it will be a failure if they had graduates that were very smart but could not actually understand how to contribute. So it's about bringing the three pieces of the puzzle, the student, the university, and the industry, working together for jobs that we currently do not necessarily understand in the future.
Music in my ears. So a question for Richard now about South Australia. Is South Australia, what is your view about South Australia readiness in order to achieve all this transformation?
Well, from my understanding, speaking to my colleagues in BA Systems, I think you've got a fantastic opportunity because I think success is around partnership, and sort of Pascale's talk there about a partnership between the learner, the institution and the employer. And that's what I see in terms of BA Systems. We're working with schools, working with universities, working with the University of Adelaide, South Australia, Flinders. By working together, we can meet the needs of the economy. We've talked also in presentations here in Dassault or whatever around ASC, around the Naval Shipbuilding Plan, C5000, where part of my support. We can only achieve that by doing things collectively. I think there's the willpower, there's the commitment, and there's the confidence to make a big success for South Australia and also for its young people and those already in work, using the kind of new technology and the digital revolution which we've all been talking about and hearing today. So let's make a success of it.
So now what I would like to do is to show you a second video because as far as the potential solution is concerned, some idea on, and we have some idea with Pascale on what we could do in Adelaide in order to trigger this transformation. Can you start, this video concern one activity we had in the United States in which it with the industry and at the Wichita State University. Can you pass the second video, please?
We strategically designed the 3DEXPERIENCE Center so that we could bring our customers, whether they're an OEM, a supplier, or even a startup. They can perform their experiments, their research, their training, their demonstrations without having to make an investment like we've made here. We can take the system of work that typically is 3 to 5 years for like a UAS, and our mission is to take that 3 to 5 year life cycle down to 90 days. We have the right tools, we have the right processes, methods, libraries, the right platform, and the expertise of our partnership with NIAR and Wichita State.
Aerospace is such a key to the future of Wichita. It's been our history, and we really see that the Innovation Campus gives us an opportunity to impact the quality of aircraft and to impact the future globally. Dassault Systèmes is such an important base of the aerospace industry. It gives our students and our research faculty access to the newest and best software that is available, the best research that is available. So we're really excited about that being on campus, and the fact that Dassault Systèmes really invested here is crucial.
The 3DEXPERIENCE Center really pushes the envelope. If we can do things in a virtual world and have it certified in a virtual world, that means less testing in the real world. And that's really the core of what we're trying to do here. The university and the 3D Experience Center here on the Innovation Campus allows these industries to step away from their normal day. It challenges a good engineer to be the best engineer he can be. Give them all the tools necessary to solve some of the most complicated problems.
As we begin to look at how our engineering centers are set up around the globe, having the ability to collaborate through a system like the 3DS really brings our engineering capability to the forefront. And I think that will become revolutionary within the industry. The 3D Experience Center can help us streamline our tools and our methods and our processes. It'll help us develop an integrated digital solution for the aircraft, both in terms of the 3D configuration, but also all of the analysis tools that also integrate into that. That could help us increase and become more efficient in the way we develop airplanes.
Creating digital continuity from one end of the aerospace process to the other end, and introducing all of the technology that sits around that, whether it be virtual reality, automation, 3D printing, or additive layer manufacturing. All of these technologies are here, and these are the technologies that are being introduced to the aerospace and defense sector today. Furthermore, since we have a massive physical test infrastructure here as well, and a very close collaboration with the regulatory authorities, gives us the opportunity to industrialize and regulate those new practices and processes so they can be used in production. Our vision is to proliferate centers such as these around the world, and ultimately our expectation is that as engineering proliferates, as cloud computing proliferates, collaboration won't be the same. We're going to crowdsource our engineering. We're going to crowdsource our supplies. We're going to crowdsource a lot of what takes place in a very bespoke way today. These centers such as this become the test nodes, the fabrication nodes on that global network. So our expectation is that these ultimately will become factories for online content and online services to a global collaboration hub, which is a 3D Experience platform.
Well, this kind of center, of course, is a little bit outstanding because it has been done in North America with all the power of the aerospace in America, and that's been promoted by President Obama. But you should know that we have established similar kind of centers in other countries of the world with all the same objective, which is to prepare the future generation. We did in India, we are working in France, in Germany, on all these centers. And Pascale, don't you think that we should do something in Adelaide like this?
I think we need one of those, and more importantly, I think our students need one of those. I mean, one of the things that in Australia we observe is just how readily our young people go and get exciting careers elsewhere. I think if we had something like this here, we would retain the talent, we would attract the talent, and we would be unbeatable.
Okay, and is it something that you share as well?
Definitely. In the UK, we've created similar facilities. So, example, in Preston, we've got an Academy of Skills and Knowledge, which has been developed with university partners or whatever, has 21st century co-robots and have activities like that to support graduate, but also our apprentice training. So I can see with projects like C5000, that kind of centre, working with local universities would be essential, I think, for South Australia and its young people.
This kind of centre requires first to be really located very close or inside the university. Why? Because, as you said in your video, the students should not be only the recipient of knowledge. They should also participate actively in the delivery of the curricula for the industry. Because we should not forget that all what we do here, of course, is for the industry people that you have seen here, and also for the students, but also for the small, mid-sized business which is around. Because we have the liability in order to grow the workforce of the future for this small, mid-sized business. And if we have these poles of excellence somewhere, then we can drag all this knowledge inside this small, mid-sized business by asking them to come with their ideas, with their problems, because at the end of the day, not only we need to transform the job of the industry and the big names, but also of the small, mid-sized business. So this is our ambition. And why not in Adelaide creating a center of excellence somewhere with the University of Adelaide, which is one of the most prestigious in the world in the domain, with some key partners, maybe BI System could join the club, and some others, and with sponsorship, with heavy sponsorship of the South Australia government. I think it would be a great idea. So this is what we want. This is what we would like to do, and I think we're in sync on this one. Because, last comment, what do you think, you know, I have a provocative statement, and you react on it. I heard Garry Kasparov telling one day that, you know, if you take someone in 1960 and you bring him in 2017, he will not recognize the world. Everything has changed. Not only the iPhone, but everything has changed. But if you put someone in a classroom in 1960 and you put this guy in a classroom in 2017, will he be completely destabilized? Very, very similar. What's your view on this, Pascale?
I think this is changing rapidly. I would have said 10 years ago probably that was the case. I think what you spoke about before, the problem-based learning and the connection to the real world, that has become increasingly important. And I think in 5 years' time, I'm very confident that somebody will not recognize the classroom if they're transported from 50 years ago.
Okay, so it was provocative, but I, on purpose, I tell that to you and to you because I know that we are on the same camp on this. Any final comment on this one?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's a real pace, I think, of change. So I think the education sector is embracing that change and actually helping to lead that change. So in the classroom, I think that working with employers and universities, we are seeing a different approach towards use of new technology, access to wider knowledge and sharing knowledge, even down from universities into schools and things like that, which is beneficial. And teachers in one school sharing with other schools in terms of good content and things like that. So rather than seeing each school as an individual institution, seeing things working together as clusters of schools and things like that, as different teaching practices. And I think that the next generation of school children will have an even richer experience of education.
So I'm finished. Maybe last comment about what Einstein was saying about knowledge. You know, the center of gravity of knowledge is experience. And my boss, Bernard Charles, who is not here, is saying 3D experience is a center of gravity for know-how. So know-how and knowledge, this is a combination of those two that will make the world successful. And our company is in the middle of this transformation, and we will be together on this transformation as well. Thank you very much.